Hey guys, Archangel Manga here, and today's series review is going to be Eden of the East. This is an 11 episode series directed by Kanji Kamiyama, who's the same guy who directed Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, and it's also produced by Production IG. So the animation is very, very good, as I'd expect Production IG's animation to be. I was very impressed with the animation and just the standard of quality that Eden of the East had to offer. Although it says on this that it's the complete series, I haven't experienced Eden of the East to its complete entirety, because from where this finishes off there are two theatrical releases that basically continue the story from where this left off. The ending for this, I guess, if you're just bothered about the series and don't want to watch the films, then the ending is somewhat complete, but right at the last second it leaves something inconclusive that kind of makes you want to see the two theatrical releases. I was satisfied with the ending of this, but literally like the last second it just turns everything on its head and just goes it's one of them now I'm going to have to go watch the films kind of endings. It kind of forces you to actually go and watch out the films, so I'm going to have to get the films, which I'm not too bothered about because I do enjoy this series. It basically, like I said, I enjoyed it. It says even on the top here, one of the reviews, this series is pretty much flawless from top to bottom. Much emphasis on the word flawless. I completely disagree with that because this series is, for the most part, completely flawed. And I'm going to explain a little bit why without kind of drifting into spoiler territory, because this series is like a thriller mystery. It's one of them animes that you start off and the viewer, like me, and the characters in the show don't actually know exactly what's going on, and it basically builds it up like a jigsaw puzzle, piece by piece. Revelation after revelation, you basically learn what's going on along with the characters. So if I explain the plot too much, I'll be giving away spoilers, so I'm going to kind of give you the condensed version. I'm going to basically tell you how it starts. And how it starts is our, I guess you could say, support character, the redhead girl there, Saki. She is a senior in university and she's on a post-graduation trip to the US. And she slipped away from all her friends who are all in New York to go to Washington DC, because for some unknown reason for her, the White House is like the centre of her world, even though she's never been there before, which doesn't really make sense, never really explained. So she's at the White House, like outside the gate. She's looking at like a postcard and saying, it looks a little bit close on the postcard, but then she's looking at the actual White House and it's like really far away. And like in front of the White House is this like a fountain with like a little pool, and she's got a quarter and she wants to make a wish. I don't think you ever gets to find out what that wish was, but anyway, she gets this quarter and throws it over the fence. But she can't reach the fountain obviously because it's too far away. So while she's doing this, some police officers catch her doing it, and as police officers will, obviously you're not allowed to throw stuff over the fence at the White House, they come over and start questioning her, and kind of like, being a bit forceful with her. And that's when we're introduced to our main character, this guy right here. And this is where the series kind of just, the moment I saw him introduced, it just made me think, oh my god, what am I in for with this series? Am I going to enjoy this series, or I'm going to absolutely loathe it? Because this character here, this guy, basically he tries to help her. He sees that Saki's having some trouble with the police, and they're accosting her over throwing a quarter over the fence. So he tries to help, but he's like at the other side of the road, and basically he's woken up completely naked with no memory of who he is, why he's there, how he even got there. He literally has no memory of anything. All he has is a phone in one hand and a pistol in the other. So he's going towards Saki and these two police officers with a phone and a pistol, completely naked. So the police turn around, try to subdue him, but then like a lorry like drives past, and he basically hides, and the police officers assume that he's jumped on the lorry, so they go chasing after the lorry, but he's hidden in this like underpass, and then he jumps up and approaches Saki, still with the phone in one hand and the pistol in another hand. And normally, if this was in a real life situation, alarm bells would be ringing. For me personally, anyway, if somebody approaches you completely naked with a phone in one hand and a pistol, a weapon, a gun in the other hand, you don't do what Saki does. You don't give him your hat, your scarf and your coat and start talking to him. You don't talk to him, you run. You run as fast as you can. If somebody approaches you completely naked with a gun, this guy's crazy. You don't talk to him, you run. But no, she opts out for, oh, I'm going to talk to this guy. I'm going to, give him my clothes to make sure he's warm and safe and sound. It's very, very, very far-fetched. So yeah, basically she gives him her coat, then finds out afterwards, after he's left, that her passport and information is in her coat. So she ends up following him to like wherever the hell he lives, because he finds out on his phone he's got like a GPS marker for like where his house is. So he just follows like where, what the phone tells him to do. So with our main male character, this guy here, because he doesn't know his name, obviously we don't know his name either, so he's just like, Mystery Man A for all we know. But this phone that he's got with him isn't an ordinary phone. It's like a super technologically advanced phone, and it's got like a big button on the front of it, and he presses the button and he's put through to like an operator or his concierge, known only as Juice, who makes him aware that he's in deep crap. He has 8.2 billion yen in digital cash on his phone that he's basically, that is his cash to spend. He is linked to the terrorist attacks. Basically 10 missiles strike Japan. He's linked to them terrorist attacks, which happened like 3 months prior to the beginning of the story. And he's also linked to the disappearance of 20,000 NEETs. Now, when they first mentioned the word NEET, N-E-E-T, I wasn't familiar with what that was, so I looked it up. NEET is basically somebody who is not in education, employment, or in training. So basically they're just like, just shut-ins, I don't want to say low lives, but people who have like no job prospects or career prospects or anything like that. So yeah, he's involved or somehow linked to the disappearance of 20,000 like shut-ins, terrorist attacks on Japan, and he has 8.2 billion yen in digital cash, and he wakes up with no memory, completely naked, with a pistol. So that's basically the basic. That is all you find out in the first episode, and he's being followed back to his apartment by Saki, who wants a passport back. Once he gets to his apartment, he finds like loads of firearms. He finds like multiple Japanese passports, and basically picks out the passport that sounds most Japanese because he's Japanese. So he he christens himself Akira Takizawa, because that was the closest passport that kind of resembled like his actual likeness. So yeah, Akira Takizawa is his name, or that's what he chooses for himself. Now, the characters in this show are bizarre, to say the least, because this is set in like a real life setting. This isn't in any like alternate reality. This is like set in modern day Japan and modern day America, in our world. This isn't in an alternate universe or anything. This is supposed to be a real life setting, but it's just filled with so much far-fetched events, and just this entire anime would never ever happen in a real life setting. It's completely far-fetched. Basically, Saki, for the most part, is probably the weakest character in this. She doesn't really serve much purpose for the plot. She just basically acts as Takizawa's sort of like love interest, or basically she's all like kind of glitter-eyed over him, because the first time she ever sees him, like, he's just got his schlong there, completely naked, and she's like, ooh. It's stupid, it really is. But where was I? Takizawa, his apartment's full of like firearms, these fake passports and things like that. And he learns from Juice, his concierge on the mobile phone, that he's linked to basically like 3 months prior to where the story began. There was an event that a catastrophic event in Japan that happened called Careless Monday, where 10 missiles simultaneously hit Japan. I think it was all in Tokyo actually, but funnily enough, and this is probably the most far-fetched things in the anime. Careless Monday happened 3 months prior to this. 10 missiles, 0 casualties. No one died. Not one person died. And it is explained why there was no casualties later on in the anime. I'm not going to tell you why, obviously, because it would be a spoiler. It is explained how there wasn't any casualties, but still the explanation that's given is also very far-fetched and would never happen in a real-life setting. But I know I seem like I'm slating this anime a lot, but I did enjoy it, like, for how far-fetched it is and how over the top and just silly it is. It is enjoyable for that reason, and that's why I would recommend anybody to watch this anime, because it is so over the top and just so just so stupid that it makes it entertaining, and I genuinely enjoyed it. Even though the characters are very strong, you know, you have some really stereotypical, you know, character archetypes. Like this, one of Saki's friends is like a guy who just does this with his glasses all the time, and it's just like, oh god, are we really doing this? And Saki herself is, you know, a very weak character. She just serves no purpose at all. In fact, she sees herself and Takizawa as like kindred spirits, or like almost soulmates, for the fact that they're she's born on January the 6th, I think, and the passport that he chose for himself, the date of birth on it is the 7th of January, so like supposedly born like a day apart. So yeah, she sees herself and him as like soulmates almost, and it's just really silly. Excuse me. But yeah, as we go on, we learn more about how Takizawa is linked to these events. You know, Careless Monday, the disappearance of 20,000 NEETs, why his memory, why he has no memory, and he's actually part of. I will basically make it vague. He's basically part of like a national conspiracy. I won't say how, or like, I won't say that, you know, what kind of national conspiracy it is, because it would be a spoiler. But yeah, he's part of a national conspiracy to basically save Japan. His goal, or the goal that he's been tasked with, basically he needs to reform Japan, and basically make it a better society than it already is, because it's just a crap hole basically. And basically, if the 8.2 billion yen that he has that money, basically, to help his cause. If he spends all of the money without attaining that goal, or if he spends the money, you know, selfishly, you know, just things that he likes, then he will be killed. Pardon me. He'll be killed. His concierge, Juice, basically acts as his like information broker. He can call her up and basically get her to do anything that he wants. If he wants somebody assassinating, if he wants some kind of diversion, if he wants something to be sabotaged, which is also very far-fetched, because this Juice can basically do anything. There's actually a moment in the anime where he's where he needs basically there's some missiles attacking Japan, and he calls up Juice and says, right, I need these missiles to be intercepted, and he's basically like shooting them down with his like finger. It's really stupid, but also really really entertaining. So aside from the silly plot and, you know, everything like that, the music for this is really entertaining. The musical score, even though it's a thriller, the music is like really upbeat and like almost like it almost doesn't match like the tone for the series. Like when you're actually watching it, you wouldn't really realise at first glance that it's actually a thriller and like a mystery. It seems more like an adventure, like a comedy almost, and there are comedic elements to it, and that stands out a lot in the animation. You see like a lot of distorted faces when there's like funny reactions from Saki, or like, you know, some of, you know, her like intermediate friends and things like that, like, you know, funny eyes, or, you know, when somebody's like, oh, you know, they'll get like a little twist above the head and things like that, or like, you know, sweat drips when there's like an awkward situation thing, just typical things like that that you would, you know, see like standard in just, you know, all across the board in anime should I say. So there is like a lot of comedic elements to it, but it isn't categorized as a comedy. It's like a mystery romance with like maybe I guess you could say like a comedic undertone, but you know that isn't, you know, apparent at first hand. The the show as a whole does take the national conspiracy sort of aspect, and it for the most part does pull it off pretty well. You know, the music really kind of, it blends in nice, even though it's really kind of, it doesn't really fit it. One thing I have to really praise this show for is its, and this is something I haven't really talked about for anime, is its opening and closing, you know, tracks. Particularly the closing, because what they do with the closing is it's like paper sort of animation. Like you see like explosions, like crumpled paper and things like that. It's really, the closing for this anime is very good. Very impressed. Music is good. I couldn't tell you who the music was done by because that's not something I paid particular attention to. The dub, I watched this in English. The English dub is very, very, very good. The lip syncing is, you know, done very well. It doesn't seem out of sync anytime, and it just feels very natural. Because it's done by Funimation, you know, there's a lot of familiar names that I'm becoming aware of now, like, you know, Mike McFarland, who is like the ADR director for this, I believe, Colin Clinkenbeard, Christopher Sabat, who else is in this? There's a few others who I recognise from like other animes by Funimation that I've watched, so that's really nice to see. I haven't watched the extras for this yet, but there are some interviews with like some of the Japanese cast and directors and producers and things like that that I reckon would be pretty entertaining. One thing I don't like for extras, though, that they put too many like teaser trailers and TV spots in, you know, some of the extras that are just unnecessary. This comes with some of them. But all in all, I would probably give this anime a solid 7 out of 10. That's kind of 6 and 7s are kind of like average. This is like above average, I would say. Good animation, far-fetched plot, but that kind of adds to the entertainment value. Uninteresting characters, but for the most part, I do recommend Eden of the East. I might do a more thorough review once I've seen the films, because the films are essentially, like I said, a continuation of this story. So yeah, that's been my review of Eden of the East, episodes 1 to 11, Archangel Manga, signing out.